Is the used Lexus IS250 good or bad?
Is the Honda Pilot a reliable car? Where would you rank a Mustang? I'm reviewing used cars. Hola! I'm Mike, the backyard mechanic, and that's the Mustang, which I will talk about along with the 10 other used cars. How do I know about all these used cars? I bought them over the last 20 years. 10 cars in 20 years, you must be thinking, Mike, how could you afford that? I paid for them with my job driving the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. It pays surprisingly well. Not only that, I lived in it, so I saved on rent. It was a fulfilling job bringing wiener awareness to the masses. Hashtag the wiener life. I'm going to start with a bonus vehicle, a 2000 Dodge Caravan that I bought in 2000. Yes, this was a new car, but it fits into the story of all these other cars. I bought the Caravan with a $20,000 5-year loan. We had a 2-year-old and a baby at the time. It was perfect for a family that would take trips to Michigan and Houston with a medium-sized dog in a kennel in the back. It handled like a minivan. If you stopped fast, it wanted to go up on its nose. The 3.0-liter V6 had a whopping 118 horsepower. I don't know how you get only 118 horsepower out of a V6 without doing something on purpose, like clogging the carburetor with a chicken. Hey, you got your carb and protein. It had a cloth interior which was not kid-friendly. It looked like a barrel of root beer exploded inside. The rear seat was removable but weighed about 50 pounds. I threw my back out with it many times. The window regulator kept going bad. One time the window dropped into the door right before a major thunderstorm. I replaced the driver's side regulator 11 times and the passenger side twice. To be fair, AutoZone gets a lot of credit for selling a really junky replacement. Another thing was I kept a box for all the interior parts that fell off. It was dozens of plastic pieces, most of which I don't even know where they went. The final straw was when the serpentine belt started to slip off. Over the years, the top pulley bent, and when you hit a puddle of water, the belt would slide off. A replacement pulley was $100. Instead of that, I traded it into CarMax and got $1,600 for it, which may have been low. In hindsight, this was a pretty reliable vehicle. It lasted somewhere north of 100,000 miles in 13 years, 8 of which were without a car payment. So yeah, I kind of recommend this one. 3 stars. In 2006, I bought a 2000 Toyota Solara 2.2-liter 4-cylinder from a little old lady. It had 60,000 miles on it and was in excellent condition. I paid $8,000 for it, $6,000 of which came from my online poker winnings. I drove it for 10 years before passing it down to my son, who drove it for 5 years, and then passed it on to my daughter, who drove it another year before it gave out. At 211,000 miles, it seemed low for a Toyota. There may have been a way to resuscitate the engine, but the car was shot to hell. Within weeks after he got the car, my son rear-ended a truck and crunched the front bumper and grille. I used baling wire to stitch it back up, which worked functionally, but it looked like hell and the hood was bent. When my daughter had it, the motor for the driver's seat gave out, and that wasn't easily repairable, so we traded it in for another car. Overall, it was mechanically sound. The window switches didn't always work, and it did chew up alternators, but they were easy to replace, and I usually got them for free under warranty. The Solara lasted us 16 years, and all cars need maintenance. 5 stars. In 2013, for the wife, I bought a 2009 Ford Flex with 30,000 miles from CarMax. It was a $25,000 loan out the door with a $2,500 extended warranty, which proved prescient. The Flex was a nice car, very roomy and flexible. It had a lot of power off the line, and for a big car, it cornered great. But man, that warranty paid for $16,000 worth of repairs over the 5 years I owned it. The main repair was for the transmission, which would sometimes decide not to shift, leaving you stuck in second gear at 60 miles an hour, and then it would lurch into third. We took it to be repaired 3 times, and the mechanic finally said it just couldn't be fixed because the valve body was unrepairable. But the craziest repair was the rear end alignment. Yeah, we're not talking about a supercar here, just a car. All the bushings needed replacing and then the rear end aligned. About 2 months after the 5-year loan was paid off, the transmission cooler developed a leak and it was spraying up and being sucked through the radiator. All of the fluid on the radiator collected dirt and clogged it up. That's how I figured it out. The thing started overheating. Then I saw the radiator. Then I looked at the cracked windshield. Then there was that transmission. The car was worth $5,000 at the time, but needed $5,000 worth of repairs. We got $1,500 for it in the trade-in, and the dealer thought I'd be upset, but it was a good deal. After this and the Dodge Caravan's chronic issues, I was turned off of American cars for the next 5 years. Honestly, a lot of problems with the '09 Flex were probably because it was a first model year, but they didn't really work out the bugs until 2016. The Ford Flex fiasco was a fail. It lasted just a few weeks after being paid off. 1 star. We needed a new car to replace the Flex for Mrs. Backyard Mechanic. In 2018, after the Caravan bad dream and the Ford Flex fiasco, I went to the extreme of a non-American 2015 certified used Honda Pilot. I was a bit disappointed with the Pilot compared to the Flex. It does not have as good acceleration off the line and it doesn't corner well. But it's an EXL, so it has all the creature comforts like power seats, moonroof, Bluetooth, and backup camera. For a few years, the engine would gyrate wildly at highway speeds. I took it to 3 mechanics and I even replaced the motor mounts. Nobody could figure it out until my current mechanic said the drive shaft was out of balance and that it happens to Pilots all the time, which is why he's my current mechanic. The brake rotors warp easily, like from looking at them wrong. Watch this video. Otherwise, this car has been super reliable, never an engine or transmission problem. I can't even remember this thing throwing a code. We've had this for 6 years and running. 5 stars. No wait, I just heard the rotors warp again. 4 stars. The Lexus. In 2015, I was passing on the Solara to Backyard Mechanic Jr., so I needed a car. My logic was a luxury car that was a few years older than a comparable standard vehicle would have the benefit of luxury. I targeted a Lexus IS250 as it sounded like the sportier of the models. So I bought the 2007 with 130,000 miles for about $9,000 cash. The good is, it's still running. The car was smaller than expected and too small for me. I'm 7'4". Yes, I'm that tall. Yes, I played for the Mavs. Yes, that's me. Stop questioning me. I never lie. It takes premium gas. Visibility is not good. The A-pillars are the size of your mama's thigh.
What?
The odd-size rims mean the tires cost double from a standard and there are fewer options. The all-wheel drive, which I used exactly once, makes it hard to work on. It doesn't have Bluetooth, but it does have an auxiliary jack, which doesn't work on any of them. It had a melting dashboard and door trim. The rims have unsightly corrosion. The catalytic converter throws codes. The engine burns oil. The driver's seat rips easily. The windows don't always work, which seems to be a Toyota thing. The radio doesn't always work. The moonroof stopped working. The AC blend door broke. The headlights turned yellow. The PCM died and needed replacement. The alternator died, like they do in Toyotas. In the Lexus, it's a $1,200 job. Not even joking. Whenever anything goes wrong, the VSC light comes on. This is essentially the car throwing up his hands and saying, "There's something wrong. I'm going to put the car in dangerous mode," and disconnects the traction control and the ABS.
Danger, Will Robinson, danger!
The water pump broke on me 40 miles from home, late at night. To its credit, it made it 39 miles. Windshield washer broke. The hood struts needed to be replaced. The good news is it's still running. It's been handed down to Little Miss Content Maker and it's up to 190,000 miles. I'm going to give the Lexus Lemon 2 stars. It gets a bonus star for keeping my daughter safe. In May 2019, Backyard Mechanic Jr. had saved up his money for a car to replace the beat-up Solara. We found a 2006 Mazda 6 from a private party for a good price of $2,200. The first problem with this car was the buyer. I didn't realize how bad I was at buying used cars, and it all went wrong with this one. Spare tire and jack were missing. The car had been in a front-end accident as evidenced by the welds and plates on the frame. Catalytic converter was replaced with a straight pipe and wouldn't pass inspection. The AC had a leak. Belt tensioner bearing exploded. The front end needed new ball joints and tie rods. Learn from my mistakes. It's hard to give a firm thumbs up or down on this car since I basically bought a pile of junk. But at the end we traded in for $500 because the engine and transmission were both starting to give out. And because of that, I give the car 2 stars. I give me 1 star for buying it in the first place. In September 2020, Backyard Mechanic Jr. had saved up his COVID money and was able to get a 2-year-old 2018 Honda Civic EX. My only regret is a nice metallic blue touring edition was sold just before we got there. Otherwise, this car has been very reliable. It's had 2 issues: a slow AC leak, which was finally taken care of under warranty, and the car rides pretty low to the ground. I mean like really low, like low rider low. And Junior's not been up to the task. He once hit a parking curb, which is not on Honda of course, except that it somehow caught the plastic wheel well between the tire and the road, and he drove on it and ripped it out. The wheel well. He's also bottomed out the car about 3 times and has ruined the aluminum splash pan that protects the engine. I tried replacing it with a strong plastic one, but he smashed that a short time after. So it rides pretty low. Otherwise, 5 stars. 2 stars to the driver who runs things over. In February 2021, Little Miss Content Maker saved up her money and was ready to replace the Solara. I found this 2007 Acura TL at an independent small dealer. I talked them down $600 and they gave us $500 for the Solara, so we took the car for south of $3,000. It was a peppy V6 and it looked really nice. And it's made by Honda. What could go wrong? It came with the cracked dash. The seats were torn up and it had seat covers. It leaked oil. Power steering hose leaked. The steering rack leaked. The ball joints and bushings were bad. I replaced the ball joints, but that was not a fun job. There was a brief time when Honda required you to take the entire axle hub off to get the ball joint off. I was under that car for 2 weeks. I replaced the steering hose, but the steering rack was leaking, and the fix for that was to replace the entire rack, which was a $1,500 job. I instead supplied my daughter with Lucas power steering stop leak, which slowed it to something manageable. I finally got the car running right, and then the transmission died. These Acura TLs might be what are bringing Honda reliability ratings down. So we junked that car, and I bought her something else. No excuse for Honda to be this bad. 1 star for the Acura and 1 star to me for buying it. It was at this point that I knew I needed to know how to buy a used car. I channeled my grandpa, who gave me this encouraging advice.
You should be buying reliable cars for your kids! What the hell are you doing with all this crap? You think you know about cars, but you're buying junk! Why don't you use that stupid head for something other than a hat rack? And what the hell is with that hair? You need to get it cut!
Yeah. Thanks, Grandpa. A lot of articles will tell you to take a car to a mechanic before purchasing, but that's really hard to do. Instead, I gave myself an online crash course, reading tons of articles and watching dozens of videos, and learned how to inspect a car myself. It's not like learning how to cook. Inspecting a car is basically a checklist of things to look for. That, and make sure to get a Carfax. And a code reader, like this one. I'll detail how to inspect a car in the next video, but in the meantime, my last video took off like a SpaceX rocket, until YouTube killed the power. Help me fight the tyranny. Hit that like button. Ow! Well, that was ironic. In July of 2022, I found this sweet 2006 Toyota Solara 2.4-liter 4-cylinder with 120,000 miles. The rims and the tires alone were worth at least $1,000. I got the car for $6,000. There was only one thing wrong with it. The AC cut out as I drove it home, but this turned out to be a loose switch. Little Miss Content Maker was very happy, and then she lived up to her name 3 days later. She wasn't looking and hit a moving truck. Car was totaled. Insurance company reimbursed me. The 2006 wasn't the best year of Solara, but it was the last year of the coupe. You just can't go wrong with them, other than they seem to want to run into trucks. 5 stars. Little Miss Content Maker gets 1 star. In July 2022, from an independent used car lot, I found a 2006 Toyota Matrix with 100,000 miles in great condition. This guy was operating on a small margin, but I still talked him down a few $100 to $6,800. 2 things went wrong with it. First, the water pump froze up and chewed up the serpentine belt. It took a few hours to replace. Second, the alternator and battery died. This took a few days because they don't usually go bad at once. Toyota seems to have an issue with alternators. I've replaced them on Toyotas more than any other brands. Little Miss Content Maker was very happy, but then she lived up to her name and 2 months later, someone brake checked her on the highway and she panicked and slammed on the brakes. ABS was optional on this car and she didn't have it. She spun out and hit the wall. She was miraculously uninjured. My opinion of the Matrix, good economy car, 5 stars if it's equipped with ABS. Little Miss Content Maker gets 0 stars. And the Lexus. After giving my Lexus to Little Miss Content Maker, I needed a car for me. In September of 2022, after spending a few weeks mulling over what my next car would be, I decided I wanted a Mustang with a V8 and a manual transmission. I decided against 2011s as it was the first year of the Coyote engine, and I don't trust first year anything, especially after the Ford Flex fiasco. Then I also ruled out all years after 2011 because Ford, in their infinite wisdom, dropped the trustworthy Tremec transmissions and went with a get-rag MT82 made in China. There's currently a class action lawsuit against Ford for this horrible transmission. I looked at Mustangs from 2005 through 2010. The first one was a 2007. I waited around at the parking lot dealership for the sales guy to jumpstart the car. He never got it running, but the car was really run down, so I passed. This 2009 was in nicer shape and ran well, but it had been in 2 accidents and the Bondo was starting to chip off. I fell in love with this 2009. It was the car I wanted. On the test drive, I had Mrs. Backyard Mechanic screaming as I put the car sideways pulling out of the parking lot. That video was real. Okay, I'm required to disclose that the video was not real and generated by AI. I mean, you probably believed I was sticking my head through the windshield while driving, but you may have been confused at why my wife was running alongside the car like the Roadrunner. The car had a lot of mods, both cosmetic and mechanical. The long tube headers were a problem though. The car wouldn't pass emissions. If only Mike the Backyard Mechanic had this video available at the time, I would have known how to get it to pass. But alas, I was hesitant on this 2010 because it was way overpriced and they wouldn't budge. But it was the height of the used car bubble, and when you need a car, you need a car. The car was from California, in immaculate condition, and really well cared for. I'd tell you more about the Mustang since I bought it, but that's what this channel's for. A year and a half and so far so good. A well cared for Mustang is 5 stars. So that was 11 cars and reviews. It's impossible to review every used car that's available. The goal here is just more information to help you decide on a used car. Oh, hey, I have a fan online. Hey fan, did you like the video?
Well, that was great. Can't wait to see your next video about your last 10 socks.
Thanks, fan. So what was my worst car? The Lexus Lemon or the Ford Flex fiasco? I guess due to the nature of the Flex currently living in a boneyard being parted out, it wins. So what was your worst car? It helps the YouTube algorithm if you leave a worthless comment, and I will leave an equally worthless heart emoji. After that, watch how YouTube screws over small car channels. Chances are you haven't seen it. I haven't seen it either. It's on my to-do list. I'll get to it. She wasn't looking and hit a moving truck. Car was totaled.